Hey guys, in our last tutorial we covered some includes and functions. In this one we're going to cover some loops, and I did this video for about 2 minutes and I redid it because it was a little too complicated to get started on. Anyways, if you look at these numbers, I echoed 1, 2, 3, and what a loop does, it makes it so you have to type a lot less and it keeps repeating itself. The first loop I'll show you is called a for loop, and it looks like a function, and it has three expressions. And the first one is where we set our number to start at. I'll start at 0. Our second one is the condition that we want it to loop through. We want we want the loop to keep going as long as I is less than 10. And every time it reaches the end of the loop, we want to do a post increment. So maybe that looks a little confusing, but after you do that a few hundred times, this will just be stuck in your head because you're probably going to use this quite a bit. And let's just do echo I dot new line. Okay, and there it counts 0 to 9. Let's just do a 0 to 10. We'll start at 1 and we'll end at 11. Okay, you could even do is less than or equal to 10, and you'll get the same results. There is also a while loop. I see people use this a lot when getting data from a database. So really what this statement says is, while something is true, do this. Okay, so we need something to be true for a little while. I'm going to use numbers again for this example. So while let's get a variable up here and say I equals 0. While I is less than or equal to 10, we will say echo I dot br. Okay, and there's going to be a problem here because I is always going to stay at 0 in this loop because I is not manipulated. So if you refresh, you're going to crash PHP or do something pretty bad because it's never going to end. So you want to make sure to do pre-increment or post-increment, and there we go. The while loop, I guess it's up to you what you like using. You should really get familiar with the for loop first, I think, the one I showed you at the start. There's also what you call a for each loop. Now this is a little different. It deals with arrays. Just like a function, it looks the same. So let's make an array. And I'm just going to pick some food. Let's say cheese, apple, bread, yogurt, and fish. Okay, I'm actually going to call this food. You always want to name your variables for clarity. Now, for each. This one's a little bit different, so we're going to do for each of food as value. Okay, and we're going to echo out the value, and we get all of these. Let's do a little BR so we get them on a new line. So that way we can print out all the elements of an array. Now there are also keys in an array. So let's say we had a we wanted to print the keys. You would do for each food as key, and then the arrow, equal arrow sign. This is not a greater than sign, by the way, or a greater than or equal sign. Those ones look like this or that with the sign before it. This is more like a pointer. So if you want to find out the key, add a little space there, and there's the key. So like in our previous examples when I talked about arrays a little, cheese has a key of 0 unless it's set to something else you define, and it just counts up. If you had an associative array, that means it associates by a string rather than a digit. Cheese is what? Dairy. Apple is fruit. And I'll just leave those like that, and let's see what happens. There we go. It still produces the key even though it's an associative key. So you'll be using the Foreach loop quite a bit in your PHP, and loops quite a bit actually, just in general. Now things can get really complicated when, let's say, we have fish as a key and another array as a value. Now things are going to get complex, and this is what you call a multi-dimensional array. It means that there is an array inside an array, and you can keep nesting them down. You don't need to worry too much about this, but I'll just introduce you to it. So fish, now let's just make some fish. Salmon. I think pike is a fish. I think, is that bass guitar or bass? Yeah, that's good enough for now. Now if we do the for each loop when we have an array here, you see we get fish, but we also get array. So what you want to do is, if you wanted to do this a quick and dirty way to scan the array that's multidimensional, you might do something like this. If key, okay, because we're dealing with the key, which is this, echo 1. Let's just see if this does anything. Okay, sorry, I meant the value. If value is an array, echo 1. There we go. So this might be a little ahead of the game, but hey, that's life, you know. So if the value is an array, which we're dealing with right here, now we're going to want to for each that one. For each value as KA. You want to use different values than what you used up here, or else you could run into conflict. And we will just echo out K dot A dot BR, and let's see what we get. There we go. I'm going to actually space these out. I'll just add a non-breaking space, and you can see we still get this array here, so we want to put an else statement here. There we go. Now I'm guessing I probably lost you. You don't need to concern yourself with multi-dimensional arrays right now. But that's an introduction to loop, so play around with some of those.